Oh, sorry. Your women to motivate you through whatever you've been going through. We can talk about it. We ain't that's no judgment. Don't be ashamed. It's all the same. Stay in your lane. Your lane. It's whatever your real life looks like. Stay in your lane. Come on, the dark and don't be ashamed. Your lane. Let's have a conversation on what we face every day. Tune into your late talk show. It makes us feel good just to know we're not alone. No one will feel isolated and just a slide. I want you to come out the dark. Just don't be afraid of your heart. So don't be ashamed. It's on the same. Stay in your lane. Your lane. It's whatever your real life looks like. Stay in your lane. Come out the dark and don't be ashamed. Your lane. Let's have a conversation on what we face every day. Your lane talk show with Coach Trish Hannah.
You're listening to Your Lane with Coach Trish Hannah.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome everyone to Your Lane Talk Show with your coach Trish Hannah, broadcasting live from the beautiful Nassau, Bahamas. Happy Sunday, everyone, and happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Blessings to you. I hope you are enjoying the special day, and thank you for making Your Lane Talk Show a part of it. First time listeners, welcome to the show. Your Lane Talk Show was created to educate, empower, and encourage women of all ages. And I also want to take the time to welcome our male listeners that tune into the show as well. Last week on episode 95, the topic series was Teach Me How to Fight for My Marriage. We were on part 4, and our guest speaker was Coach Keisha Bass. I keep on getting Bass and Bass. Keisha Bass. She's the founder of Her Dope Marriage, and she shared her testimony and ways that we can win our husbands over. Now, please go ahead and check it out on YouTube. You can look up Coach Trish Hannah while you're there. Please like and subscribe. Now, I'm trying to go as fast as I can because there's just so much to cover today. But I can tell you, listening to this particular series that Teach Me How to Fight for My Marriage, throughout the show, you will hear nuggets and points to write down. Like, she's not going to go point blank, oh, you should do this first, and then you should do this, and you should do that. As she discussed her journey, you can actually get tips. I had someone yesterday that said they were totally blessed by the message that she gave. And one person in particular, someone else that I know, she was like, Trish, I be telling you all these things all the time. I don't know why y'all don't listen. I've been saying these things. I said, yes, it's good that people hear these things, but do they apply it? So now that you have the education, let's now apply it, because that's what education is. It ain't just getting the information and just doing nothing about it. All right. So I want to get straight into it because we this could be a hot show today. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to share the page and Tiger friend, Tiger mother, Tiger soon to be mother, Tiger, and someone who probably ain't looking into being a mother in the next 2-3 years, but then they still want to have some information under their belt. All right, because today's show is just, whoo, I mean, I have to say so myself. I about to get a pen and paper because we have matriarchs in the building. All right. And I want to welcome to you all this special Mother's Day edition of Your Lane Talk Show, where we will be celebrating the remarkable journey of motherhood across 3 generations. Yes, that's how we're doing it today. 3 generations. Now, today we embark on a captivating exploration into the hearts and minds of those mothers, each with their own unique stories, challenges, and triumphs. We are going to witness how parenting evolves from generation to generation. And so, as you listen, I want you all to ponder on some of the questions that I will be asking them today as as I ask them these questions, ponder and think about how you would answer those questions. All right. And that's you as a grandmother, as a great grandmother, as a mother, whomever. And let us know if you resonate with anything that they are saying. Because we know, especially when it comes to grandmothers or grandparents, you get to hear, well, back in the days we used to do this, but y'all don't do that, and all these other things. So let's hear what each generation has to say, because this is three generations worth of knowledge, wisdom, and insight. And I can tell you, you want to tune in today. You can tune in to Star 106.5 FM dial, channel 976 on cable, or you can log on to Facebook on Your Lane Life Coaching Facebook page to look at the beauties that we have in studio. All right, Your Lane episode 96, Honoring Motherhood Through Generations, is brought to you by The Perfume Bar, John Shoe Store and Accessories, Your Lane Life Coaching, Nor Rice and Pasta Sides, distributed by Asa H. Pritchard, O. Henry Candy, distributed by Asa H. Pritchard, Libby's Vienna Sausages, distributed by Asa H. Pritchard, and Memories by Shamika and Amorphia presents Mommy, I Love You, a Health and Beauty Expo. Memories by Shamika and Amorphia presents Mommy, I Love You, a Health and Beauty Expo, celebrating mom all month long. Come join us at the Balmoral Club on Sunday, May 26, 2024. This event is from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. This is the perfect event for mom and daughters of all ages. The mommy-daughter pair will share in an experience that will strengthen and build mother-daughter bonds. The mother-daughter pair can indulge in a day of on-site self-care from an option of 7 beautification services, engage in thought-provoking presentations, and be educated about all things feminine and health-related. This is an event you don't want to miss. A ticket would make a perfect Mother's Day ad into her card. Hint, hint to my guests. For more information and tickets, you can contact 807-5415 or 826-8029. That's 807-5415 or 826-8029. Now let's get into our guest introductions. I'm excited. I have, once, like I said before, 3 generations of beauty and grace as guests today. And I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves to you. So we're going to start. I'm going to say their names, and they're going to tell me a little bit about themselves. How many children they have, how long they've been married, if they are, if not married, whatever have you, what their hobbies are, whatever it is that they want to share. But let's start with the matriarch, because we'll make sure she speaks first, and then following her would be her daughter, and following her daughter will be her granddaughter. So matriarch Ruth Mae Francis, welcome to Your Lane Talk Show.
Thank you. Well, as you've heard, my name is Ruth Mae Francis. I am the mother of 8 children.
Wow.
9, I would say. 9, I born 8, but I have 9.
I know about that. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and I've been married for 49 years.
Go ahead.
49 years of marriage, and I have 22 grandchildren.
Ooh.
And 3 great-grandchildren.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Odessa. Y'all know Odessa. She is no stranger to the show. We know who Odessa is, and we know who she is not. And she is not one to not be seen or heard on our show, because she's always present. Odessa, let the other audience know who you are, what you do, and whatever it is, other information you want to share today.
Hi, everybody. It's good to be on this side of the mic today. Well, kind of good, because you know how Trish go, right?
Oh,
She's kind of tell you, not ask you. But I am the mother of 1. I am unmarried, and this is my mom, and I have 1 beautiful, beautiful, beautiful granddaughter.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's me.
That's Odessa. She ain't saying nothing more, nothing less. That's all. Okay, and then the beautiful, beautiful daughter that you are referring to is our Lashan Sands. Hi, Lashan. Welcome to Your Lane Talk Show.
Hello, my name is Lashan, and I've been married for 5 years, and I have one beautiful daughter. She's a toddler, 1 year old.
Wow, look at that. So we have a mother, a mother, a mother, and a mother all on one show today. Wow. So we're gonna start by just asking. We're going to start with Mrs. Francis today. Before we delve into the questions, I want Mrs. Francis to share with us a little bit about how you were raised, how your mother raised you. You know, the journey, the experience of you've had experiences you've had while growing up with your mother.
Okay, I would say that I am privileged above many because I grew up with my mother. Um, my mom, my mother. I call her mother. If you hear me say mother, I'm talking about my paternal mother. Um, I came from both a two-parent home. Um, 11 siblings or 10 siblings. Um, and I didn't grow up with my mom. I didn't grow up with my mom, with my mother. I grew up with one of my first cousins. We were two sisters' children who didn't have any children of her own at the time she got married, a couple of years. And so, the family being a very close knitted family, my mom allowed me to live with her and her husband. And of course, and they moved to Nassau. We are from Andros. Okay. I would say my childhood days, I can be grateful to God because my mother, she was an entrepreneur. My father, a boat captain, and my cousin, who I grew up with, she and her husband, they were also entrepreneurs and pastors. Okay, both my parents were pastors, so I had the privilege of growing up in a godly home. I had the privilege of coming up in a family from generations that were pastors and ministers. Um, in my childhood days, I would say I knew my mother as auntie. Okay, we
Your
call her
paternal mother.
my paternal mother as
Auntie.
auntie until I got to a certain age. Okay, and then with my mom, my cousin who grew me up, I was the well, I was the only. I was. It was yeah. I was right after she adopted me. After she took me, like a year and a half, she had one child of her own, and then it took 6 years before she had any other children, which was a boy at the time, 6 to 7 years. Um, so it was just two of us. Well, I always felt privileged as a child because I was the only girl for 15 years before she had a girl. She ended up with 9 children, as a matter of fact, after that. So, in a way, I felt spoiled because I always was privileged to, get whatever it was
Stick
that
a
I
pin.
needed.
Sorry, I have to highlight this real quick.
Mhm.
So she was married and she did not conceive until 6 years after. Is that correct?
She was, yes, about
Wow.
that time.
Anyone know where I'm going
5
with
to
that?
6 years.
Anyone know where I'm going with that? And the mere fact that she took in a child under her wings, to help with support and raising, etc. She was blessed with how many kids after that? After that,
She had
6 years?
9 children.
9 children. And I don't want to stick a pin there for those who are trying to conceive, who've been saying, oh, it's been a year, nothing happened. 2 years, nothing happened. 3 years, nothing happened. Oh, I've been to Barbados, to all these different clinics and all over the place using all these different fertility treatments and nothing has happened. Be still and know that He is still God. All right. I just want to just stick that pin right there. There's nothing too hard for God. there's nothing too hard for God. Yes, Mom.
Yes. And so, like I said, I thank God for the privilege He gave me. And I grew up with a lot of pride in my life because I knew who I was. And most of all, I knew who God was. Because I can remember at the age of 6 years old, as children, you try to do your own, well, I wouldn't say do your own thing, because if you're still at a certain age, you'll get yourself in little problems with mommy or daddy. And so there were times when I may feel sad or feel down, and I would always run. I always knew that Jesus loves me. Wow. So coming up in the Church of God, came up in the Church of God. And so then about 11 years or so after Daddy, he was appointed a pastor of his own church. And so all I knew was church and home. Okay. All I knew was church and home. So I always knew where to run for my comfort. And then at some point in your life, growing up as children, you tend to stray off course.
Yeah.
And you get yourself in some problems that you wouldn't really want to face at that point in time in your life. And so I would say that I want to say that as in my childhood days, like I said, to me, I had a good childhood. There was a time when I had to find out who my real parents were.
That's it right there. Respectfully, I was waiting on that because that was taking a little while, but it's coming out. At what age did you find out who your real parents were?
I was about 6 years old, 5 to 6 years old, because I could remember clearly I was in primary school at the time.
So tell us what happened.
Oh, what happened was my route to and from school. Every day, and when school is out, there were two houses in this particular yard, right? I'd see these ladies every day. And they'd sit out on the porch. And so one day they called me. They called me. And so I stopped. And when I stopped, they asked me, hi, how you doing? I said, I'm fine. Said, what your name is? And I told them. Okay, I told them what my name was. And of course, I was carrying my adopted parents, my cousin, whose family, I was carrying their surname. And they said to me, who's your mommy? And I told them. Who's your daddy? And I told them. When I told them, they say, that's not your mommy. No, your daddy. Your mommy is, I don't know if you want me to.
No, that's fine.
Yeah. And said, your mom is so-and-so. Let's put it like that. And so I went home shocked.
Confused.
And when I got home, I said to Mommy, Mommy, I met, this lady. She called me and asked me who's my mommy and daddy. And they said, no, you're not, the surname that you're going, that I was going by, which, and I'm not, afraid to say, but,
Go ahead.
And so I said to them, she said, my surname, she told me what they knew my surname to be. Well, of course, being a mother, she flew off the handle. She was upset because someone else is telling me who I am.
Right.
And so that brought about a change in that brought about a change in
Was
my
that
life.
in your life? Were
Mhm.
you upset because you felt as if they lied to you? Were you how were you feeling at age 6?
Well, I wasn't upset that they lied to me because, as far as I know, that was the only mommy and daddy
That you
I
know.
knew.
Yeah.
And to have someone breaking the news to me in that
In that
way,
way. Yeah.
it was like, I guess, a disappointment, a hurt.
Mhm.
I don't know exactly how to put it,
Mhm.
but or to describe that feeling, but um, it left me with emptiness, I would say.
Wow. Wow.
It left me with an emptiness. Mind you, I didn't know my birth parents. Okay, because like I said, we were a close knit family.
Mhm.
They were always traveling to Nassau,
Mhm.
and family, they come around each other, and her and my mother and my mom would travel together to the states, like
Because they cousins.
yes, because
They were cousins or you and them were cousins?
my mother, and my cousins, the one that grew me up,
Right.
she and I were two sisters' children.
Okay. So let me
They
ask you a
were
question.
so
So
my
even
my mother was her aunt,
okay.
if you
Okay.
understand. Yeah, my mom was her aunt.
Okay.
Yeah.
So even in that, because we get a lot of that, we had a lot of those back then.
Mhm.
'Cause I could tell you, my mother was raised by her auntie,
Mhm.
and I didn't know that my Grammy didn't raise her until I was a certain age as
Mhm.
well.
Mhm.
And she had my grandmother. She had a lot of children. I think she had. Oh, Jesus, I should know this. I think she had about 7 or 8 children.
Mhm.
So it was a little difficult for her back then. Her reason was
Mhm.
not that her sister didn't have children, because her sister had children as well.
Mhm.
I think it's because she needed help with the amount of kids or
Right.
children that she had.
Mhm.
So my mom ended up with my grand aunt, who I've been calling mom before she passed all my life, because I
Mhm.
think that was my grandmother as well.
Mhm.
And the people who she grew up around, her siblings, who were actually her cousins.
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
was calling auntie this and uncle
Mhm.
that,
Mhm.
and in actuality, they're just my second cousins.
Right.
So and I've been told that, hey, these things used to happen in our country all the
Right.
time.
Right.
So what I want to know, because we could delve on that for a very long time, but I want to move on. What are
Mhm.
some of the biggest differences you've noticed in parenting styles between your generation, the way that you grew up, versus the generation now?
Well, I know that, and I've heard it said over and over that I'm not going to raise my children the way I was raised, um, because I think this generation, well, this, or I guess I'm a third, go down the line, but say in my daughter's generation, you'd hear parents saying those things, saying, well, I'm not going to raise the children. My thing about that is it's good and it's bad, because I feel like a lot of times we throw away the baby with the bathwater, so to say, you know. Um, so, I mean, even with my children, would, I said I would not raise them when it comes to disciplining them, the way that I was disciplined.
How were you disciplined? You going there? How were you disciplined?
Okay. Well, the way I was disciplined, let me put this first. I don't up to today, I'm trying to figure out whether if I had grown up with my paternal mother instead of my mom, my cousin who grew me up, um, what difference it would have made in my life, in my life, because both of them were strong women. They came from very strong family background, and so women who took charge, and because at those times also the husband had to go away a lot of times, and the women had to be the strong one in the house. And so I always wondered how it would be. Now they were rough, like the parenting teaching that we have today. They didn't have that back then.
But I all due respect, how did she discipline you in back then, like versus now? Like, if you willing to share that?
Okay, I mean, I can speak on it now with my children. I try not to be so harsh.
Yes.
With them. Now, back in the day, and I guess there's still bullying today that's going on. But back in the day, parents would call you if they whatever names they feel like calling you. If they think you had a big nose, they tell you go with your big nose. Whatever they saw,
verbal
that
abuse back then.
Right, it was more verbal abuse back then.
Okay.
And so I had determined that I will not do that to my children.
Yeah.
Back then, they also showed a lot of curry favor.
Ooh.
Okay.
Who's the favorite?
Right.
Favorite.
And they didn't think that there was anything wrong with that. And so I also determined that I will not. Up to this day, my children don't know. Well, as far as I'm concerned, I had decided I'm not loving one more than the other.
Come on.
Okay. I will not love one more than I love the other. Now, I will handle you according to all children are different.
Yes.
All children are born with their own.
Right yes.
They come with their own character. Sometimes you see some of the traits in them that are in you.
We go in there. Don't we go in there? Oh, you're in the spirit. We go in there. So in your time of growing up, you realize that even when it comes to discipline, the differences, because I asked what's the difference between then and now. Now, you do still have some people who still doing those things now, disciplining the children in an abusive way. But in your sense, you said, look, what they used to do then, I am not going to do that anymore. And that's me. And I'm going to try to love them so that they can all know that each of them are loved equally.
Right.
And you're also saying that, hey, you as a parent was able to know that you can't curry favor for those international people. It means showing favoritism to one more than you do with the other. That is good right there.
Right.
That is good right there. Yeah. So I'm gonna stop you just for a second, and if producer's okay, I'll go on with to Odessa. Yeah. All right. So we're going to go on a quick break. And then right after a break, we'll get into asking Odessa a few questions. I'm not going to stop with you, Mrs. Francis. I just want to give everyone a chance to speak. And then we go back to you, the matriarch, as soon as we return. When I read the question, we're on a break now. But we're still on Facebook Live. When I read the live read for the mothers, can you bring up that flyer for me, please?
I think that was the one that you sent me that's in the box.
Not that one.
Oh,
there's a flyer for Mother's Day. For the.
You sent it to me, right?
I think I did. But if you need, you see it?
Sure. No, you can get it. No problem.
I can resend it just in case. All right, Tessa, how you feel?
Child, I nervous.
Tessa, don't ever be nervous. Tessa always has something to say and playing. But let's go. Let's set people free today. Let's do it today. You find it beats? Let me know. If not, I'll send it. Okay.
If you have it available right now,
yeah,
just forward it back.
Okay. Email or not? I'm not. Okay, good. Let me look for it. There it is.
Yeah, I definitely get what you mean about the throwing the baby out with the bathwater when it comes to disciplining your children. Like, there's some people in my generation now, the big thing is soft parenting.
Yeah.
Which I think is a wonderful thing. everything, but
But
at the same time, not everything
calls for that.
not I
level.
mean not you don't have to be 100% soft.
No,
No.
because every situation don't call for being
No.
soft.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And that's a part of my question. I'm talking mostly about rough parenting, that tough love. So we would want to know the difference between tough love and soft parenting, and where's the balance with that. Yeah, because I've witnessed um my aunt who tried the tough parenting, and I think in her defense, not I'm not using that as an excuse at all, but she didn't have that love, so she didn't know how to love.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean. So and when she did that, instead of bringing her child to her, she actually pushed her child away.
Yeah.
So from that, if I were to learn anything from when I was growing up, I definitely do not want to do the tough love,
that. Yeah.
because that's unnecessary.
It's like when you're making a metal, you have to temper in it. You have to heat it,
Right.
and then you have to cool it.
Yeah.
And then
Balance.
Create that balance, right?
And then sometimes as parents too, we realize afterward, I can handle that better
Yeah.
than that. But my dad, he used to say, "Oh, I love the beat." He used to tell you that.
Oh,
So when,
gee.
so when you see him coming, you run in to go do this and do that. Make sure he meets your work.
Yeah.
Oh my God, flyer ready.
Okay.
You're just about ready to come back from the break.
Okay.
So, you want to do it when we come back?
What, the library?
Yeah.
That'll be at the end.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks.
So,
Welcome back. For those who are just joining us, we have with us in studio 3 generations of mothers who are talking about their benefits, the trials, the challenges, etc., of being a mother, and of course, what better way to bring them all together at once, so you get to hear how things connect with them. We were talking to the matriarch of the family, Mrs. Ruth May Francis, where she shared how it was back in the days with her, and the fact that her paternal mother did not raise her up. And how many of us can, well, not me, but how many of us knew of people who were in that situation or related to the situation where you had to let their parents had to let their aunties or other mother or someone else, a neighbor, raise them up. And then of course you had to do what you had to do. Sometimes people just didn't have it. You didn't have that the finances as you want to try to take care of 8, 9, 10 children. Okay, so at that time, I can say that some parents, I can't vouch for everyone, just had to do what they had to do to survive.
Yeah.
All right. And so now we're gonna talk to one of Mrs. Francis's daughters. I think she said she has 8 daughters.
5 children
5 daughters.
and
4 sons. I didn't know that. I did not know that. But we're gonna talk. We're gonna talk to Odessa now. Okay. So Odessa. Hi. I want to thank you for accepting this invitation on the spot during the show on air.
So that wasn't
last Sunday. Okay. So thank you so much for that. But I want to ask Odessa, what are some of the key challenges you faced as a mother in this your generation? And do you think they've evolved or remained the same for the newer generations?
Well, for me, I got pregnant at a very early age. I was 18 at the time I got pregnant, and I think I was 19 by the time I had my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
So as a young parent, it was a whole lot of just being thrust into life. Like my mom said already, I am one of 8 children, 9 by extension. And to be honest with you, it's probably about 20 by extension, because our house always had others in it that she took in. So I was the third child. I was a third child, the oldest child.
Mm-hmm.
So I was the one that was already mothering a whole lot of other children that came behind me as well. So I was always the one in the house and doing a lot of stuff like that. So responsibility wasn't anything new. However, this level of responsibility was something totally outside of what I knew anything about. So for me, mothering at the age of becoming a mother at the age of 19 was a culture shock. I finally got to see what it was that my mom actually went through as she had to raise the children that she had at the age that she had to raise them, because she started off young as well. And it was a challenge. It was a challenge. Thank God I was able to graduate from high school, so I was able to have my at least my high school diploma in hand. And so after having my daughter, it was to okay, now it's time to support my daughter. My goal when I was in school was like I can't wait to graduate so that I can assist my parents. But of course, life happened, and I ended up with a child of my own just coming out of school. So it wasn't anymore that I had to work to help my parents take care of the family. I had to work to do that as well as take care of my own child. The dynamics is so interesting as well, because at the time that I had my daughter, my mom had a daughter a few months later.
Oh,
3 weeks. So it wasn't 3 weeks. It was you had Tennille in December. I mean in January and Shan born in November. So it was at least 5 weeks, but that was too close anyway, because that
So
simply
two are
meant the two
pregnant.
was pregnant at the
Yeah.
same time. So that journey, when I tell you that journey was difficult, and it was a culture shock and a thrust into life itself. It was serious, so being a young mother, there were things that I saw, just like she said, I would have said in many instances, I would not do this with my child as I as I grew her up. But I also thrust myself into work because I understood what lack was in the house at the time. And then I was bringing in an extra burden because I wasn't living on my own. So I threw myself into work. Fortunately for me, I had younger siblings at the time who were able to also watch her while I was at work. Mom was always out to work as well. So I had a great support system in that I had persons I was able to help take care of her while I was out to work and doing my thing. So it was difficult. But by the grace of God, it wasn't so difficult that because I was able to support her very well through work. One of the things I would say that was a regret for me, though, however, was having worked so many hours while my child was so young. So I lost a whole lot of time in terms of growing up a young child. So that's
the answer all my questions I have for her in that one breath. I don't know what to do now. I'm trying to figure out. I'll tell you that. So since you don't talk with your regrets, because of course that's one of the topics that questions I wanted to ask. Let's talk then about how you grew up, because you said, and of course we're going to say this respectfully, there are some things that you encountered while growing up that you said that, and that's okay, because that's how we evolve.
Yes.
There are some things that you've encountered while growing up that you said that you will not display with your daughter. If it's okay, can you just discuss one or two of them?
Well, for me, growing up in a house of all those children, I was the third, like I said, and I was the one that was home most of the time and taking care of the younger ones and doing a lot of the cleaning and all of that stuff. Now, for me, a lot of time, well, we also spent a whole lot of time in church because mommy was a preacher's kid, and she grew up, her life was church and work as well. She socialized. She had a lot of friends as well. So she actually had a well-balanced life as it relates to friends, family, and work, and church. But a lot of time was spent outside of the home, and I would have been the one who would have been inside, because my older sister at the time would have been closer to age where she was able to go into the salon with mommy to work and learn a trade as well. So for me, that was interesting. And then mommy was a hard disciplinarian as well, even though she said that she would not do something. This sweet face, she was a hard disciplinarian. And I guess because I was the older child at that point as well, I felt like I got the brunt of a whole lot of it. So I found that I feel like our relationship didn't have an opportunity to kindle the way that it could have been kindled because of all the responsibilities she had on herself as already, and because of her life experiences. Because at the end of the day, being a mother now, you understand why why decisions have to be made, why you have to prioritize this over that. And it's not anybody's fault that that there's going to be a lack in you spending time, or you getting to know or getting to nurture a particular child while you do the other things that you have to do. It's just that life happens, so, or in that, I feel like our relationship could have been on another level if I was not possibly that third child. So the discipline area, I always said that I would not go that route with my daughter. And in hindsight, like I said, I didn't have a lot of time to spend with my daughter when she was much, much younger, even though I think we always had a very close bond. I feel as though, like, understanding a whole lot more now, I see where allowing her to express herself is a good thing. And I don't feel like I had an opportunity to express myself the way I would have wanted to express myself, because at some point when you discipline children to the extent that you're disciplining them, or the way you're disciplining them, it kind of helps to shut them down. So a child will lose their voice, they will lose their independence, they will lose their confidence because of certain things that they go through while they're younger. So I had promised that I would not do that with my daughter. Now my daughter,
stick a pin right there, because every time I've been hearing a lot of nuggets, but I have to say this one because I grew up with this as well. When a child asks you a question, especially now, as mothers and stuff, we have, especially for this new generation, you better have answers for them, and not because I tell you so, or none of your business, or when you get older, and all these different things. Because I can tell you, for this new generation, it's like, I can't wait to get to Sean. This group now, if you don't answer them, they're gonna go on Google and they're gonna ask themselves. And we know how worldly Google is. Google's gonna give you whatever it is they feel like giving you, and however they feel like saying it. Definitely. So you're gonna have to take the time. Yes, we understand that this is how my mother did to me, and nothing happened to me. But understand that we evolve, our minds evolve. Scientists could tell you that. The Bible tells you we go from glory to glory, from strength to strength. So you're not gonna always have that same mindset that you had from your grandmother and great grandmother, because things happen. So when you get in that state where you can't allow your child to vocalize how they feel, yes, they're gonna shut down. They're gonna keep secrets from you. They're gonna try to do things without your consent or asking questions. They're gonna ask their friends instead of coming to you. So you're gonna have to find that space, or ask God, however it is that you need to do it, to break whatever pride or ego that you may have, or generational curse, but because that's probably what it is, because your grandparents or your mother didn't open up to you and they weren't as vulnerable to you. You want to have a relationship with your children, then you're gonna have to open up and be vulnerable to them. I wanted to stick that right there because I had to say that. All respect to my mother, I love her, and of course she could have only said and done what she knew. Okay. Thank God we're in a space where we're way better than how we were back then. But she was never the one that I went to for anything with pertaining to asking questions about life and myself, because I didn't feel as if that at that time, because y'all, like, every day we talk at least 2-3 times a day now, but back then it's like she would have been my last resort, because she never gave me that space to open up and to share. And if I did ask any question, it was always a short answer, or you don't need to know, or something to that extent. Don't question me. All right. And so that left a void in me as well. So I know about that. Go ahead.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, I decided that I would do some things differently. And I feel like I failed in a lot of instances where I could have had more conversations with my daughter, could have instilled some things in her. Now, mind you, I feel like I've done a lot in terms of telling her how I think she should handle certain stuff, and how she should not read too much into something else. And, I sometimes I try, but I'm going to be honest, as a young mother, having a daughter that's almost, I mean, we're like what, 18 years apart.
Mhm.
So it's still very close in proximity. And me going through my own personal challenges and all that stuff, there were times I was afraid to even say things to her. And hey, this is my daughter. That's
your
my daughter. I
Mhm.
should be able to have these conversations, whether they're hard or not.
Mhm.
I should be able to do whatever. But at the end of the day, I was afraid to actually, try and step in and say certain things or whatever.
What brought about that fear, you think?
I don't know if it was always a limiting belief that I had inside myself that I probably wouldn't have said it the right way, or she would have taken it the wrong way, and maybe being afraid that I would end up putting her in a position where I felt I was as a child, not being able to properly express myself, and causing her to shut down, because I always wanted her to still be herself,
Right.
not to be angry and not to feel like someone was necessarily trying to control her life or shut her down. But then I also wanted her to have that balance. But then, of course, for some reason, I was afraid to actually step in and do that, because at the end of the day, these children are very strong-willed.
Very.
I mean, back then. So imagine what she is going to have to deal with her daughter.
Right.
You
So
know,
let me
so
ask
it's
you a question, right? At what point did you realize that, hey, I don't need to carry on this fear anymore? I could be as open and transparent with my daughter. Or are you still experiencing that fear from time to time?
Well, in all transparency, as I grow older, I realize that it's in her best interest and mine to express what I have to say, whether or not I feel afraid to do it. And yeah, this fear is there still sometimes, because now she's a married woman, has a husband, and she can tell me, still married people business,
Oh.
So
Okay.
So at the
Sean,
end
you
of the
brazen.
day,
Cause Sean,
and
all
at
I
the end,
gotta feel, my teeth would have been on one side of the room. I can tell you that.
and at the end of the day, she's right.
Yeah.
She's now an adult.
Yeah.
And at some point, she was an adult for some, she's been married 5 years now. So she has been an adult for a long time now.
Yes.
And there are some lessons, you want to impose on your children, but some things they will have to learn on their own. And some things you have to ask God to actually step in and teach you how to show her this, rather than having to tell her, because it almost goes back to a marriage where they say the husband would rather live on the roof with a nagging woman.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing when you nag your children, when you actually bless them with one voice and curse them in the next. It's like sometimes you cause confusion.
Yeah.
So you have to lean on God and lean on the Holy Spirit to actually do what is necessary to bring in the balance that's needed in her life, to make her mature and to not shut her down, and for her to understand what life really is. Because when we have conversations, you realize that some things stuck, and there was no need to put the heavy pressure on or whatever. Lessons were learned.
Listen, you made some really, really good points there, but I want to get to Sean real quick. Sean been a little quiet and patient in the background. I want to hear her voice. Sean, my questions come a little differently, but because she opened up this can, I want to go straight there, right there. You heard what she said in reference to, not being as transparent or vulnerable with you while you, during your time of her raising you, right? So how were you feeling, if you can recall, around the time frame when she was not as transparent and vulnerable to you at that time? Sorry, at that time.
For me, I felt as though she could have been a lot open in some instances, and instead of, there was maybe one or two occasions where she went to her sisters regarding an issue me and her may have had. I felt as though she could have came to me and talked to me regarding it instead of going the other way. But for the most part, I feel as though our relationship was always a good relationship. It may have not always been as open, but for the most part, she was the one who I would have came to in some things or in most things.
I love that, because I see the bond that you two have. Was it always, because I know you said at some point, you said the most part, but at the points where there wasn't a connection, what was the pivot? What was that change or turn maybe in your mindset to say, you know what, my mommy isn't as bad as I think she is, At what point of your life did you realize that, hey, this really my mommy. I could really hang with my mommy. She cool.
I don't know how to answer that, because I don't necessarily feel as though I could not go to her.
Okay.
I may have chosen not to, but I felt as though I could always lean on her and her wisdom. Um, yeah, so I am not exactly sure how I should respond to that.
Okay, that is fair. So your mom was always, even the age bracket difference, and even in her thing, it's amazing how we see our flaws, but I mean, the other person outside looking in can think that it's completely different. Because the way that Odessa, described how she felt as, not being able to be as open and transparent with you, you seem to be okay with that. You survived.
I survived
You
pretty well.
survived. So let me ask you. So during the times where she couldn't come to you like that, who were you going to?
I guess my aunt and my cousin, all of us were in the same age
Mhm.
range. So we were like sisters, so it was always them.
All right. So now let's talk about you as a mother, Lashan. Okay. You've been married for 5 years. All right. How do you balance your role as a wife, your career, you as a mother, your social life? How do you balance all of that in one?
I make it work. um, for me, I would say because of how my mom works a lot, I've always said that I would not be someone who worked a lot. I would try and create that time to spend with my child, and um, so I made an effort. And I guess going into marriage, it was also a discussion between me and my husband
Mhm.
where, you know, you don't overwork or you're feeling too burdened or, 9 to 5, or only if you have to, you work the excess hours or something like that. So for me, I've been intentional with creating a balance with work and life where I won't overdo it. And then I feel like now having a daughter, my mom is a great support where I could say,
Mhm.
okay, we going on date night, or we need to make room for a date night, or just watch her for an hour. So I need to get some rest and stuff like that. So she has been a great support. And then I had also had some of my aunts and stuff where I could depend on her and her other grandmother who I could depend on. So for me, it has its rough days, but it isn't necessarily rough because I have the support who I
Support
can
the
lean on to.
community. You have a lot of support. Yeah. Yeah. Grammy tell me she has 22 grandchildren, okay, or more, and about nine children. So you could pick, choose, and refuse where your baby going. You know what I
Not
mean? So
necessarily,
you
but
could be the
yeah.
last one saying it rough. But it's good. I love that. I love that. Um, I this question was really for Odessa. So because they're talking to you, did your mother ever talk to you about the birds and the bees and mental health and puberty and stuff while you were growing up?
Um, boy, I don't know. I don't remember.
That's all.
I don't
So
remember either.
you don't mind something like that. You remember these things. It's like, for instance, my mommy never talked to me about that.
It didn't happen.
When listen, let me tell y'all some quick story. This is in seventh grade. I was coming home from school, and no, this is after school. Then I went to use the restroom and I discovered that, hey, I'm seeing my menstruation. Blah, 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 blah. So I went home. My mom was to work, by the way. I went home and I called her at work and I said, hey, mom, I think I saw my period today. She burst out laughing, and then she said, oh, you know where the stuff is in the cupboard. And that's how I found out about the birds and bees. All right, about puberty. That's it. That's all. That's the story. I want to give thanks to my aunt, who was a sixth grade school teacher back then, who they had like puberty classes and stuff like that, or whatever. So they had like there's a Ziploc bag with one or two those sanitary napkins and a booklet that discussed about the female anatomy, right? So you get to see what it is, because I never really knew, and what to do and how to change the sanitary. I learned from a booklet from my aunt in sixth grade, who was a sixth grade teacher rather. So that's how I learned it, and that's just how it was. Anything else with mental health and all this other stuff, she's actually talking to me about that now. Thank God. You know, she's talking about the things that she could have or should have back then to me now. We're very close knitted, very close knitted. Thank God for that. Thank God for the restoration with me and my mom. But there are a lot of women, because I have a lot of friends also who said the same thing. My mother never talked to me about this. They never talked to me about that. Listen, especially now, parents get to teach your children these things they need to know. You do not want them, and I have to reiterate them, to go somewhere else to get the information. If you have to go and do your research first and make sure that it's accurate, I'll make sure, especially for believers, that it lines up with the word of God, then you go ahead and you do that, and then you apply the whatever information that they're coming to you with. Okay, I just wanted to stick that pin there. So Sean, if you remember, that means she didn't say it. All right, that means she did not say it, because things like that, children remember.
Yeah, probably not, but I
What are
know.
your
Sorry, but I know. I went to. I think I didn't even tell her when I saw my monthly.
uh-oh.
So yeah.
No, but you just say 2 seconds ago, y'all nothing
Now
you
that
guys
you
don't
said
do.
it, I
Oh
recall.
Lord. So what was your reason then for not going to her about that?
I don't know. I think I came to her afterwards, but I went to my dad first.
What? To this day, my daddy don't know I have a menstruation.
My dad is
Okay.
supposed to know as well.
Exactly. All right. What? That is the last person to say, to talk about those type of things. But that's amazing. Wow, that is something. And I wanted to share this too. What are your thoughts on tough parenting? Your grandmother spoke about it. Mrs. Francis spoke about it earlier. The way that she was disciplined as a as a daughter, as a child growing up. What are your thoughts, especially with this new generation, and of course you being a new mom? What are your thoughts on that toughness versus too much? That lovey-dovey, spoiled parenting.
For me, I do not believe in the tough parenting, seeing what my mother went through, and what her siblings went through. It was something that I said I would not do. Um, and I know that you can only raise somebody based on the way that you were raised. You can only love somebody based on the way that you love. So, on the way that you were loved by your parents. So sometimes you just don't know any better, or it's just the way that you were raised. That's what comes natural to you. So
Mhm.
for me, I always said that I would not do it that way. Um, for me, I would say the rough discipline is a definite no for me.
Mhm.
There are some ways that you can actually sit down and have a conversation and discuss some things and actually hear your child's point of view, rather
Mhm.
than just basically rowing at them and, oh, you better do this or you better do that. It's a better way to do some things. So for me, that's a no. um, I prefer to do it a gentler way,
Okay.
even in terms
Now,
of the beating and stuff like that. It's a
right.
proper way that it can be handled.
Y'all had our parents. There's a proper way that it can be handled. So I can tell you, I wish I had my mom on the show, because she would tell you how she grew up. Whatever was the closest thing to her mommy. Well, mind you, now she grew up. Mom is her grand aunt, but raised her up. So whatever the closest thing is, was by the hand, was what she was getting knocked with. With all due respect, because she did it out of love. All right, at least so we thought. So whatever was there, if it was a piece of 2x4, whatever was there, that's what she got. Now with me, if the times when mommy could have caught me, because all she could have said was go get the belt. Now I would try to fling the belt and then I would go run. So whenever she was able to catch me was whatever I got spanked, but she never really used. I think I got spanked with. I got knocked in my head with a pear before.
That's what I've
I laugh because how Beats just burst out laughing just now. Listen, I got knocked in my head with an avocado pear because she, she was standing up in the kitchen. Was he trying to? I don't know what she was doing, but I know for a fact she was trying to cut that avocado pear. And I was down in the cupboard, even though they told my air because my air. I was down in the cupboard trying to get a snack out there for me to eat. And I don't know something what she said, and I gave her this look, because you know that side eye look. And all I could hear was a big knock in my eye. Oh dear, my God, memories. I just got a flashback just now. But listen, I can tell you one thing. I am a grown woman, age 40 years old, and I will never give my mommy that look ever again. All right? Never to this day give my mommy that side eye look ever again. But on a serious note, I want to ask you, LaShawn, as far as cultural expectations are concerned, right? Um, regarding motherhood, have you seen these expectations change over time? Like, for instance, what someone would expect you to, how you expect, sorry, someone would expect your children to act or your child to act, because she's one. So, of course, she's a toddler. She may be running around, maybe in church and stuff like that. Or the way that you provide for her, there's a certain way, the cultural look at things, the way that she's dressed, or, the finest of things or jewelry. You have some people who would just put a bunch of rings and necklaces and earrings on their child based on their expectations. How do you see? First of all, do you see yourself in the trend of what societal people believe as I all over the place,
Appropriate.
as appropriate? Thank you, Odessa. I all over the place, but you get my question.
Yeah, I think I got you. For me, I am more modest, I would say, and reserved. So what someone else is doing doesn't determine how I'm going to raise my daughter.
Mhm.
Me raising my daughter is based on God's leading, Holy Spirit, and the way that I'm comfortable with and her father is comfortable with. It isn't anything that I may look at hairstyles. I like
Mhm.
plait of hair.
Yeah.
But for me, that's for the most part, I feel as though, there may be some recommendations here or there. I may take them, I may not take them, depending on how we decide to parent our child. But for the most part, I would say that the social norms and stuff doesn't really mean anything to me because it's
I
based
love
on
that.
how we decide to raise our daughter.
I love that. The cultural and societal expectations really mean nothing to you. You raise it how you raise your child, the way that Holy Spirit and the leading, of course, of your husband as well would allow you to, right? I
Yes.
love that. I love that. But we're gonna have a quick break. We're gonna take a quick break because right after the break, I'm gonna ask you a question that I'm gonna ask your grandmother that same question and your mother the same question. And this is gonna be a very interesting question right after this. How y'all doing? Everybody good?
I'm good.
That's
I
good.
was just wondering if
Yes, ma'am.
I know I left out my parents and those names.
Mhm.
So my name, I was just wondering if I should still go back and call their names.
If you want to, if that's what makes you comfortable, you can if you want to, you know, because you're not saying anything out of the way or anything like that. This is your truth. But if that's what you want to do, that's fine. If you don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
No pressure. I'm actually going to come back to you in a minute because this new generation needs to hear what you have to say.
Well, and I can say one thing, another thing too.
Yes, ma'am.
I think I said it before. I discipline them and dealt with them according to the temperament of the child.
Right.
And I always said to them, you can say you can say, speak your piece, but then say it respectfully.
Ah.
So there came a time when they began to get in that teenage stage.
Oh, that stage.
When they want to face
Feisty.
you down and feisty and
I agree with you, but I was terrible. Love you, mom. Thanks
No.
for sticking it out with me.
So there were times that I had
My
to just
mouth.
stand my ground,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And I can say, you say it respectfully.
Yeah.
Don't get up in my face like.
Yeah. Wow.
And so that probably used to cause a lot of the friction.
Friction. Yeah. You got to do it out of respect. Yeah.
And then, of course, their daddy was soft on them. Is still soft on them as grown as they are. I said, I'm talking to my daughter. Let me speak to my daughter.
Wow.
So,
do you think that the respect has changed over the generation, over the time?
for parents with
For
children,
parents and children. Children mostly with parents.
children with parents. Um,
Do you think
it
they've lost the
has
respect?
changed to a point, but I think it's a crucial time in their when they're growing up and they begin to get in that puberty stage. I think that is the time when the children, that's the time when I think the parents need to
Mold them a little bit
mold
more.
them a little bit more.
Yeah.
You know, and so I feel that, like I said, that's the time when the parents need to mold them a little bit more because, and they become feisty. And I think that's the point in time when Odessa was talking about, where you become afraid to say what you want to say or, you know, uh, discipline them however it goes. But I know there's a period of time when you should discipline them, because if you don't get them within that period of time,
you're going to lose them.
you're going to lose them.
Yeah. Welcome back. Listen, we having fun in here. I hope you all taking notes. I wonder if any of you, as you were listening, if there's anything with any one of us would have been saying within this frame that resonated with you. Either you had a child like LaShawn, a mother like Odessa, or a grandmother like Mrs. Francis, or maybe you were the mother or are the mother like Mrs. Francis, or the mother like Odessa. You know, where do you fit in this triangle, you know, with these three, you know, because they represent so much, especially in this society. And Odessa, if she don't mind me sharing, someone raised in a godly home that got pregnant out of wedlock, you know, and produced a wonderful child. Don't mind me skipping because I heard it. The fact that she said she and her husband lead or parent their child based on the Holy Spirit. So that is a wonderful reflection of Odessa's parenting, and I want to commend you on that. Because no matter what, I mean, even like the Bible says, you train up a child the way they should go. When they get old, they won't depart from it. So I'm sure at some point, even though you may not have thought so, whatever have you, maybe you could have just been you praying. You may not have lived that lifestyle, but you knew how to pray. So whatever it is, your child come out knowing God. Okay, so that's what matters. That's a blessing, Odessa. That is a blessing. Shan, you still there?
Yes,
real quick,
I'm
I
here.
want to ask you, looking at your grandmother and your mother, we're going to go with your grandmother first. Just give me one trait from your grandmother that you feel as if that you can emulate now as a mother today.
Her relationship with God, I would say.
A relationship with God. That's wonderful. What about for your mother, Odessa?
For my mom, definitely the relationship she has with me, I would want to emulate that with my daughter. Her relationship with God, and just me watching how she interacts with my daughter, even in terms of her taking her to church on Sunday when we come afterwards and her worshiping and stuff with her. That is something that I would want to also do. Um, while also parenting and stuff like that, it's just different things, her relationship, um and then I guess some of the standards and stuff that she raised me on, and in terms of where she saw me further back when in relationships, she would be like, oh well, I saw myself in this position before, and I wouldn't want to see myself in this and see you in that position that I was in previously, so things like that.
I love that. So she gave you words of wisdom to
Yeah.
live by. I love that. And so we're gonna get don't run out now. This is my girl. What are some traits that you see yourself doing, or characteristics that you see yourself doing that you actually see, Odessa, in you, good and bad? I know where you live, Sean.
um praying over my daughter whilst I'm rocking her to bed or just rocking her to sleep, period. Her praying over my daughter, and I don't know. I guess some of the things she says or what she does, I may notice, like, you get this from your mommy or you get this from your daddy and stuff like that I see handed down.
You ain't saying what it is. Give me one thing that you see from that you're doing now that you be like, oh man, mommy used to do this. Oh man, I see my mommy and me.
I don't know. Praying over her.
You didn't say that.
I know that's one. You asked for one.
the not so positive then, because I don't want to say negative because I don't want you to dishonor in any way.
So
but not so.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
I would say that something that I see that sometimes I may raise my voice and shout or whatever, but
okay,
I tend to tame that or be aware of that. That would be the only thing for now.
That's fair.
Still
Because
pretty
you
early
have a lot. Sorry?
I said I'm still pretty early in the game.
Yes, you are pretty early because your daughter's only one, right? Yeah, you are pretty early. You wait till they get for 11, 12. Then you come back on the show. All right. Says, honey, because my daughter gives me, she is 10. And the lip from here to Africa, when I tell her something and she mad, and she's sitting in the car on the front seat, I could tell, I sure I get whopping my lip sitting in the front seat before. Mommy, I don't think you were abusive mother, right? I just think that you were just trying to mold me. So I am grateful for the backhand slap in my lip I got in the car of your white Sunny the other day. Nissan Sunny when I was 11, 12, 13. I don't know. But guess what? It made me who I am today. I had to put that there. I had to put it there. Go ahead, that's all. Now, as you are looking at Shan, I know that you are proud of her. I know for a fact that you are proud of her. Just tell me one or two things that you are proud of, in the way that you raised her and the way that she is as a woman and a mother.
Looking at LaShawn, I mean, I am very proud of my daughter. I mean, I talk about her all the time, and I'm very proud of the relationship that she and I have. It was work getting to the level because I always felt she was bolder than me in saying what she has to say. She grew up with that, and somehow between myself and her dad, I feel like, and even her grandparents and her aunts and stuff, we all have some traits that she pulled from a bit from everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that I can say that I see in her and her Emily or doing the same things that I would have taught her would be the way she takes care of her daughter, the wife that she is, her being the responsibleness that she has in her. And I feel like I was successful in transferring that to her, understanding how important life is, how important financial planning is, how important it is when you make a commitment, you commit. And even how to this day, while, like I said, I may still be a little timid on how to say something or how to approach it with something, but she takes it and she doesn't just dismiss it. She takes it and she may give a why as to why she looked at it a certain way or whatever, but she would always come back and say, I hear you. And this is why I did it, but you have a point. So those are the things that I feel like I am so proud of when I look at the woman that she has become, and the effort that I feel like I put in, and the effort that I feel like I didn't put in and I could have done better. It still worked out where she has grown into such a strong woman. And she is I have no doubt that she will pass it on to her daughter at the level that she's going to be a godly example for her daughter and her daughter as a result of it, and the other children to come, because there's more coming that they are going to be better because of the foundation that we laid together, because we labored together to create who she is today. And that is going to go forward.
I love that. And based on all those attributes that you highlighted with her, what are some of the things in her that you know for a fact came from you specifically?
I think her commitment came from me. I think her love for helping also came from me. That's a very strong trait that I have. And LaShawn, while you may look at her and think that she won't help, she is very helpful. She is very resourceful, and I think that came from me as well. And she's kind-hearted.
You're right.
So I feel like those are some of the traits that she would have picked up from me. The domestic stuff, she probably got more of that from her daddy, like cooking and all that stuff. That ain't come from me, But as a determined and strong-willed person, I feel like she got a lot of that from me, and I can definitely say that I see those strongest in compatibility with our characters. She is very generous.
I want to stick a pin right there for those who've been following the show and know how Adassa is. Adassa's still single. Adassa, you can't tell the people out there the cooking and the cleaning don't come from you. We trying to get Adassa a husband before the year and for 2024. You can't put on the radio cooking and all these different domestic things ain't from you. Scratch that. Delete that one right there. Y'all didn't hear that. Brrr. All right, let's go.
So what I was saying was, I clean and I cook and I'm very good at those things.
Yeah.
They just ain't my preference.
No, I got you. So you were able to explain all of that. I want to go to Mrs. Francis real quick. So thank you, Adassa, for that. And Mrs. Francis, you said 9 children. I want to know, what role did community and support networks play? Because Shan had her aunties, Dessa had her sisters. Who did you have?
Okay, when I first started out, I had, because I was very young at the time when I had my first child, I had my aunts. I had the support of my aunts. And as time went on, what I would do is I go out to work and come home. Now, what happened too is when they became a certain age that they can help to look after each other, then my husband, he was always present, because there's a time when the children had, well, I could remember back in the day, when say the oldest ones had to go to school, because I had 2 sets of children, I would call it. So I had a break like about 6 years, about 6 to 7 years, and then I had the other 4. And what drove me to that part of it was, I said, no, I'm not having any more children, or I'd take the birth control. But the Lord led me to a scripture which said, children are heritage of the Lord. And it was amazing how that came about. I said, okay, Father. But at that time, the older ones was beginning to be at the age where if I'm not in place, they can help with the younger ones. Well, that is when there's no school. But there were times when if I put them in nursery school, and if I see where things wasn't working out, I would take them to work with me. I know sometimes I'd leave a job just to be home, to be with them and work from home. So I did a lot of that. And even when I went into the salon to work for myself, I would take the younger ones with me in the salon.
Okay.
And have, nurture them there until they get to a certain age. So when as they continue to grow, what I would do is I'd come out of the salon when they get a certain age where I know they're going to get into mischief, get into company and that sort of thing. I come out of the shop. I'd set up at home. I work from home for a period of time. And when I think that period is over, when that danger zone for them is over, then I'll go back into the salon. So I did a whole lot of that. And so by that time, even with say the younger ones, which would have been Tennille, Brandon, maybe, would, well, Odessa and those were at the age to help with the younger siblings. And with Odessa, I heard her say that the pressure was on her, but I didn't put the pressure on her because there was a older sister also. But what I would say to them, I said, you all work together with the younger ones and you all do whatever's necessary to help because I'm out working. So there's certain things, while I'm away from home, you all can come together and do, and also engage the younger siblings to come. We're going to clean up the room. We're going to do this, going to do that.
At what age did you leave Odessa and the two ahead of her home to raise the children?
I never left them alone to raise the children. Okay, I never left them alone to raise the children.
Maybe that terminology sound a little negative or derogatory. To watch them while you go to work and come back, is that better?
I would say that it's not better because at the time.
That's fine. I'm just based on the information I got. Go ahead.
Right, because at the time, Odessa, those were in school. When they weren't in school, they were on their jobs.
Right.
So and there were, like I said, there were many times that I had to stay home just to take care of the younger ones.
Okay,
of the young one, I would say at the time. Okay. And so then at that time also, they were in preschool. Not preschool, they were in school. Preschool, yes, the younger ones. Okay, so it was a point where, we're all out to work. Now, in the salon, there were sometimes when I might have had to work longer hours. I decided to work longer hours to help to bring in more finances. So I knew that they were well taken up because their father was home and they were old enough to help with the younger ones. Okay. So that's basically how that story went. We all helped
and I'm not going back and forth. So that's why I'm even looking at you right now. And because I got it different. Maybe I got it wrong because I thought, I'm not even going there. Let's leave that right there in the name of Jesus. Okay, so based on, because your timer came off, so I don't know what we're working with. But can I ask you, Mrs. Francis, if you were to think about, that's good, we got a good time. If you were to think about maybe one thing or maybe one regret that you may have done or said, or the way that you were growing up, parenting your children back then, because sometimes we do things out of ignorance, sometimes we do things out of what our parents taught us, and so we do what we see them do. Would there be anything then that you may have regretted doing or saying now?
Okay, I should have thought about that question. I cannot say. Well, there are times as parents, when we're dealing with the children, we tend to sometimes even judge things differently. We judge things different from the way that they say, but like I said, I always said to the children, if you're gonna, I guess teenagers, I would say, if you want to express yourself, express it in a respectful way. But don't try, the thing about it is don't try to get up in my face because then I take on a different tone, and that takes on a different tone. And my husband always say to me, you're trying to abuse them, that's I said, it's not child abuse. But I had to be the disciplinarian. Let's put it that way.
Right.
Like I said, there might have
be the way that you discipline them.
Beg your pardon?
Would your regret be your way of disciplining them?
I always tell them from time to time if it comes up. I have to do it all over again. There might be if it to me, if I have to do it again,
Yes, ma'am.
I would do it again, because to me, with certain children at certain situations, you have to
Right.
go to a certain point.
Okay.
And if I see where I need to get to that point, I go there.
Okay.
And I tell them I'll do it again if I
Okay.
need to, because even though some of them may feel like I might have been a bit harsh, I'm quite certain if they truly examine the whole situation,
Ah,
and now that they are parents themselves, they will see why mommy did, or
what she
mommy
did.
handled us the way she did. Like I said, I'll never try to be as rough and as hard with them like my parents was
Right.
with me, without even thinking, sometimes without even knowing what the situation is. They
Mhm.
just, I got some good and rough discipline.
Mhm.
I wouldn't go that far. I love to see children play. I like to see children have a good time. But yet, if there's something that you know that you're asked to do
Mhm.
and you don't do it, then we're going to have a face down.
Oh.
Okay. And I'm going to say,
It is what it is.
so,
If you're being disobedient, if you haven't given the side eye, you might get pork in your
right.
head with the avocado. But hey, it you are a better person because of that.
And I'm not saying that I was perfect in disciplining
Yeah, of
them,
course.
and with my grandchildren and great grandchildren now, even my grandchildren, sometimes I would have had to, the older ones, I would have to put a handle on them, but even with the great grandchildren now, I see myself um, training them or teaching them in a
You
different,
think you're a little softer?
little softer,
Ah,
little softer. And then I
Mhm.
see the need for that, and I understand that, hey, this is
Okay.
a different way, that avenue that I can
do.
go and that I
Yeah.
can do.
So, Mrs. Francis, in all your grace and in all your wisdom, to each mom, it really doesn't matter the era because you represent so many different eras. Can you give mothers, I say us mothers because I am one, a few words of wisdom to carry us on today? You know what? No, I'm going to use you for the last. I'm going to use that question. I'm going to use for the last because that's how I want to end that. I'm going to ask Odessa. You represent the Gen X ages between 44 to 59. That's Gen X. Okay. How can your generation maintain that transparent bond and relationship with the millennials, which would be me, between 28 and 43, and also the Gen Z, that's between the ages of 12 and 27? How can you maintain as a mother that bond between those two generations? And you're representing your generation, ages 44 to 59.
I think it goes back to communication. I feel like with God in the mix and as the head, we have to learn how to communicate to the next generation. We have to learn how to communicate our feelings. First of all, we have to communicate our challenges. We also have to communicate our limitations so that at the end of the day, they feel like we are a safe place to actually listen to, a safe place to actually bring their children to, a safe place to actually express themselves. So at the end of the day, in order to bridge that gap and to maintain a bond between the different generations from my generation, I feel like we're not supposed to be friendly friends with our children without caring for their soul, without caring for their relationships, without caring for their futures, and expressing that from a place of love. At the end of the day, there are so many things in our past and in our parents' past that has been passed on through generations. So it has affected us in ways that we don't even understand today. And it is so important for us to develop that relationship with God so that He can expose a whole lot of things that has been running rampant throughout our generations and our history, that has caused a lot of the breakups and the rifts in relationships. So at the end of the day, I feel like once we develop that relationship with Christ, where we need to be, where He gives us the wisdom to actually communicate efficient and effectively to the next generations to come. I feel like that is going to help to keep that gap going. And the most important thing I think is outside of our relationship with God and with the wisdom, it's prayer. We're going to have to teach them what prayer does. The War Room was a real movie where you actually see where mothers and grandmothers and anybody actually goes on their knees, even fathers go on their knees before God, and they speak into the lives of generations to come and breaking things over generations. And once that prayer becomes the focal point and the foundation of your life, and you pass that on through generations, I think that is going to maintain the bond, and we will have more healthy relationships, healthy families, healthy children, grandchildren for generations.
Well said. Well said. LaShawn, let me get back to you because I know your time is just about done on this side. But we have proven today that this generation is way different from the ones before. And I would like for you to give advice to the mothers of your generation. And if you don't mind, well, how old are you?
31.
31. Yeah, so you actually fall in that millennial type, that bracket. So you in brackets with me. All right. So you would speak on that regard, believe it or not. That's how you see that? Gee. All right. All right. So you are the millennial. You represent us. What advice would you give to other mothers who are in our age bracket now, being mindful that that's ages 28 to 43? Go ahead.
What advice I would give? To keep God first, to consistently declare over your children, declare to them daily so that they will in turn declare to themselves. Keep pushing. Sometimes it's going to be hard, and sometimes you have no other choice but to do what you have to do, but you have to do it. You have to put on the big girl panties and make some decisions, some hard decisions sometimes, but you do what's in the best interest for you and your child and your futures. So I think that would be the best advice I could give. Just keep on pushing and keep God first.
I love that. Those are very, very good advice. Putting God first. Mrs. Francis looking at me like, is it my turn yet? You need to let me know because I ready. All right. I already. But she's been such a blessing. That's why I had to leave you for last, because this we want to keep that imprint. And you talking to all this generation of women, of mothers. What advice would you give to us?
The greatest advice that I can give to you is to live a life. Now, the word says that we've all come short of the glory of God in some areas of our life, some point in time in our lives. But as we grow and we mature, we come to realize what life is truly all about. And especially as Christians, mothers, and as Christian mothers, our main source is prayer.
Yeah.
We go to God for the answers, to pray for the children, to pray for generations to generation. I do believe that the blessing that is on my life, and like I said, I have two families, which is family, brothers and sisters, which, I can thank God for, because, they're all in the church, they're serving God. And also for my children, when I was having the children, I said, Lord, give your children to the Lord.
Yes.
While they're in the womb, you give them to the Lord.
Yes. Oh, yes.
When I had my first child, I was 15 years old when I got pregnant. 15. I had my oldest son at the age of 16. And to me, it was a shock, more or less. It's like I said, the only thing I knew was church and home. But it happened.
You opening up a whole. Were you married as yet?
I wasn't married as yet.
There you go.
I wasn't married as yet. And I gave my son to the Lord while in the womb. I said, like Hannah, I knew enough of the word then. I said, like Hannah gave Samuel to you, Lord. I said, give this child to you. And for all of my children, I did the very same thing. I prayed for them. I gave them. I put them in the hands of God, and 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 not just them, from generation to generation. You know, I placed them in God's hands. And so I would say to the mothers, those who are married, those who are single, stay in tune with God in spite of what's going on in your life. There may be some situations where you find yourself may have to do certain things just to survive. You know, we can't judge you. But if you find yourself with a child, put that child in God's hands. You don't know what that child would come out to be at the end of the day. My oldest son is now, he's retired now from the Defense Force, you know, and he's made so much progress in his life, in his lifetime. My all of my sons, all of my children, all of them have a trade, all of them have their careers. All of them, I would say, know God. Yeah. You know, then some of them they're not perfect, but all of them knows the God and the goodness of God, and they're raising their families to the good, to be good to themselves as far to the family, to the nation, you know, the assets. And so I would say to the mothers, continue to pray, believe, don't give up on the children because they belong to God.
I love that part, especially that last part. Don't give up on your children. God didn't give up on you. Don't give up on them.
Amen.
God was graceful and merciful with you. You need to be graceful, gracious, and merciful with your child, regardless of what they're doing, regardless of how many times they're in and out the jail, regardless of how many times they've been locked up, regardless of how many times they've gotten pregnant out of wedlock. You know, how many times they may be coming home drunk. They may have addictions of some sort. You know, you still love them as Christ loved you. That same desire to see you excel and go from glory to glory, from strength to strength, is how we as mothers should look at our children, you know, in that same love and compassion, and break generational curses, break that spirit of having that rough lifestyle, having to say do whatever you want to do, and leaving them, neglecting them. There was a point that was made that you have to do what you have to do, but be mindful that your time is also very important for them. They remember those things. Mommy was always working. Mommy was always clubbing. Mommy was always partying. Mommy always had a bunch of man inside the house. Yeah, I said it. All right. They see these things. Children are like sponges. They suck up everything they see, and they remember everything. I know my mommy, as she's listening to this, she would be like, how you even remember me getting socked with it? Listen, I remember a lot. Okay. But the point is, I give God praise because at least he gave us both an opportunity to restore our relationship. All right. That's also important. And so for those who may have conflicts between, you know, a mother and child, having conflicts or whatever have you, just know that there is still a God that is the conflict resolutor. All right. He can help you with resolutions to repair and restore what may have been broken. So don't give up on God. Let him teach you what he needs to teach you. Allow him to give you the wisdom and just strategy on what to do to restore that mother-daughter relationship. All right. If you need coaching in any area of your life, you may want to learn how to balance motherhood, learn how to help with restoration in your parenting skills with your son or your daughter, anything else that's going on with your life. You may need premarital coaching. You may need help with your marriage restoration, seeking ways to stand for your marriage, even when you may feel abandoned in any way. These are all things that I've already covered in coaching. Go right ahead to my website, www.yourlanelifecoaching.com, and schedule a booking. I would love to help you improve your life and your relationship. Next week's show is entitled Mommying on a Budget. 3 women who will be teaching us financial prudence. We would always want to learn how to steward our monies well as a mother, so you would not want to miss this. I heard Odessa even said, you know, as far as her communicating with LaShawn, she teaches about, you know, being prudent and stuff like that. These are things that we need to know first before we go ahead trying to teach our children, because it don't make no sense you allowing them to go through the same thing that you go through. We trying to break these financial burdens that's happening that I've seen trending, where mothers are going from paycheck to paycheck, where mothers are looking all over the place for school fees at the last minute when you should have been saving from the year before, where mothers are purchasing items that are unnecessary rather than purchasing items that should be needed or necessities for your child or even for yourself. All right, so we're going to learn about all of that next week, God's willing. And so before we close, I want to thank before I thank, I told the businesses out there, if you wish to sponsor Your Lane Talk Show, please give us a call at 376-8689. That's 376-8689. We have awesome packages to suit your budget. Thank you to the Perfume Bar, John Shoe Store and Accessories, Nor Rice and Pasta Sides, distributed by Asa H. Pritchard, O. Henry Candy, distributed by Asa H. Pritchard, Libby's Vienna Sausages, distributed by Asa H. Pritchard, and Memories by Shamika and Amorphia presents Mommy, I Love You, a Health and Beauty Expo. I'm going to read the live read for that as well, because listen, this is going to be one big, amazing event that's taking place Sunday, May 26th at 1 p.m. They start at 1, they end at 6. It's going to be down at the Balmoral Club. This is a perfect event for mom and daughters of all ages. The mommy-daughter pair will share in an experience that will strengthen and build mother-daughter bonds. The mother-daughter pair can indulge in a day of on-site self-care from an option of 7 beautification services, engage in thought-provoking presentations, and be educated about all things feminine and health-related. This is an event you do not want to miss. A ticket would make a perfect Mother's Day add to your Mother's Day card. Now, for more information, you can contact 807-5415 or 826-8029. All right. So in closing, I would like to thank my guests who were just so transparent today. I am grateful for Mrs. Francis. I'm grateful for Odessa, and I'm also grateful for LaShawn. All right. And to all the mothers listening, whether you're just beginning your journey, navigating the challenges of raising children, or reflecting on a lifetime of nurturing and guidance, we honor you, your sacrifices, your unconditional love, and your unwavering support shape the foundation of families and communities worldwide. As we celebrate this day dedicated to mothers, let's carry forward the lessons learned from these remarkable women. Let's cherish the moments, both big and small, and recognize the profound impact that mothers have on shaping the future. To mothers everywhere, past, present, and future, thank you for your immeasurable contributions, your boundless strength, and the love that has no bounds, really. Happy Mother's Day to you. Happy Mother's Day, Mrs. Francis.
Thank you.
Happy Mother's Day, Odessa. And happy Mother's Day, LaShawn. This is such a heartwarming show. I want to thank you once again for being a part of us. Thank you, Beats, for holding it down as you always do. To our continued Your Lane listening audience, thank you so much for tuning in. For our first-time listeners, thank you so much. I hope that this is not your last. And please follow the page Your Lane Life Coaching on Facebook to get all of the updates and goodies from the show. And you can also go to Coach Trish Hannah on YouTube to watch the previous shows. And when you do go there, please like and subscribe. I pray that you were all empowered, educated, and encouraged today. And until next time, have a blessed Sunday.